Once upon a time, in a small village nestled at the foot of a mountain, there lived a farmer named Raghav. Raghav was not the wealthiest man in the village, nor was he known for his extraordinary skills. But what he was known for was his relentless spirit and unwavering belief in his dreams. While others in the village worked the land the way it had always been done, Raghav saw the world differently. He dreamed of a day when his fields would yield enough crops to not only feed his family, but also the entire village. He believed that hard work, innovation, and persistence could change the fate of his land. One crisp morning, as the sun peeked over the mountain and cast its golden light across the fields, Raghav stood at the edge of his land and looked out. His fields were dry, the soil cracked from the lack of rain. The crops that he had planted were wilting, struggling against the harsh elements. He had tried everything to make the land fertile again. Different seeds, new farming techniques, and even prayers to the gods. But nothing seemed to work. The villagers, seeing Raghav's struggling fields, began to whisper behind his back. "Why does he continue to fight a losing battle?" they would say. "The land is barren. There's no point in trying anymore. He should give up." These words reached Raghav's ears, but he refused to let them discourage him. He knew that the true test of a man's strength wasn't how he handled success, but how he faced adversity. Raghav decided that he would not give up. He was determined to make his dreams a reality, even if the road was hard and filled with setbacks. He began to wake up before dawn every day, working tirelessly in the fields. He would dig new irrigation channels, tend to the soil, and experiment with different ways to bring life back to his crops. His hands grew calloused, his body tired, but his spirit remained strong. The more the villagers mocked him, the more determined he became. He knew that failure was only the result of giving up, and he wasn't ready to quit. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Raghav's crops remained thin and weak, the earth still dry. But instead of giving in to despair, he continued to work. One evening, as he sat by his small fire, exhausted from another long day in the fields, a wise old man from the village approached him. The old man had seen Raghav's struggles over the years and had watched him work tirelessly without giving up. "Raghav," the old man said, "I've watched you for a long time now. You're a man full of perseverance, but you must understand that sometimes the answer is not in working harder, but in working smarter. Have you thought about planting a different kind of crop? Perhaps something more suited for this land. Sometimes, when we face failure, it's not because we are not trying hard enough, but because we are not adapting to the circumstances." Raghav sat silently, taking in the old man's words. It was true. He had been so focused on making the same crops grow that he hadn't considered alternatives. Perhaps it wasn't the soil that was the problem, but his stubbornness in holding on to the same dream without adjusting his methods. The next day, Raghav visited the old man again, eager for more advice. The old man, seeing the hunger for knowledge in his eyes, shared his wisdom. Sometimes, success is not just about continuing on the same path. It's about recognizing when to change direction. In life, we must adapt, learn, and grow. If you keep doing the same thing without change, you will never see results. But if you are open to new ideas and willing to change, you will find the success you seek. Raghav was moved by these words. He knew he had to make a change. That night, as the moonlight bathed his fields, Raghav made a decision. He would plant a new type of crop, one that was more suited for the dry soil and harsh conditions of his land. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't guaranteed to work. But he believed that this was the change he needed. With renewed hope, Raghav spent the next few weeks preparing the land and planting the new crops. He watered them carefully, tending to each one with the same love and care he had given his previous crops. The villagers continued to watch, some still skeptical, but Raghav remained focused on his goal. He had learned that it wasn't about how many times he failed, but about how many times he was willing to rise and try again. Months passed, and the new crops began to flourish. Slowly, Raghav's fields began to transform. The once barren land was now filled with vibrant plants, their roots deep in the soil, their leaves reaching toward the sky. The villagers, who had once doubted him, were now in awe of what Raghav had achieved. They marveled at his persistence and his willingness to adapt when things weren't working. The same villagers who had whispered behind his back now came to him for advice, asking how they too could make their lands more fruitful. Raghav smiled and shared his story with them. "The secret," he said, "is never giving up on your dreams. It's about facing the challenges, learning from them, and finding new ways to achieve what you want. When the road gets tough, don't give up. Change your approach, learn from your failures, and keep moving forward. Your dreams are worth it." As Raghav stood in his lush fields, watching the crops sway in the wind, he realized that the journey had been just as important as the destination. The hardships had taught him valuable lessons about perseverance, adaptability, and the importance of not giving up. His dream had come true, but the real victory was in the growth he had experienced along the way. In life, we will face many challenges and obstacles. There will be times when things don't go as planned, and when we feel like giving up. But the key to success lies in our ability to persist, adapt, and learn from our mistakes. Never give up on your dreams, but be open to change, and always keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the journey may seem. Remember, the road to success is not always a straight path. There will be setbacks, disappointments, and failures along the way. But if you keep pushing forward, keep learning, and stay true to your goals, you will eventually reach your destination. Your dreams are worth the effort, and every step you take brings you closer to them. Stay strong, stay determined, and never give up on your dreams.